So, Hannah Claire, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Brett.
Why are so many movies today remakes? Why is that?
Nobody's creative.
Well, I want to preface this by saying Brett told me that I'm not allowed to answer this question with my standard answer, which is there is a lack of creativity within the industry.
You're not allowed to say they're just out of ideas.
Brett, I have been prepping an answer for this.
The leg is up, you guys, if you can't see on YouTube.
Sit with my knee up. I think that there is a fear of risking potentially getting canceled or just failing in some way, whether socially or financially. Mm-hmm. And so Hollywood is trying to convince itself that people will come back to lackluster content as long as it has an element of nostalgia or familiarity to them.
I think you're right.
It's a tried and true measure. They know that this worked before, so there is a reason they could do it again. And also, Hollywood is the biggest believer in identity politics and identity baiting. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, well, if we do something that worked before, but if we make it fit this new social demand, which really only we believe in, it will then be successful. And it's actually not the case.
I think you're right. So it says, if the last time you turned on your TV, you were convinced you'd somehow fallen into a kind of relentless time loop, you'd probably not be the only one. In fact, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the entertainment world has simply traveled back through time, defying all metaphysical norms and stayed there. At least there seems to be only one way to explain why everything is a reboot, a remake, or a sequel of something that came before it. Film and TV reboots are nothing new, but then nothing new is perhaps that perfect summary of the entertainment industry right now. And they're kind of right about that nothing is really, like, even a new story is usually rehashing. Like, I was talking to Miracle the other day that there's the possibility of making a sequel to Live, Die, Repeat, right? Mm-hmm. Which is just Groundhog's Day in space.
Or like the story of Uber or Inventing Anna. Like, those are real things that happen that they're then turning into a movie that's semi-fictional.
Like The Social Network. From Sex and the City to Gossip Girls and Dune to West Side Story, how did Hollywood become so addicted to remakes? There's no pinpointing when it all started. You'd likely remember the first time a show or film you loved got remade, and probably you were overjoyed to welcome it back in with to your eyeballs. I would love to think about that right now. I can't think of what it was. What would have been the thing that originally kicked this off?
I have never wanted a remake of anything in my life. I don't even really want sequels to things.
And Disney and Disney is the biggest, perhaps the biggest.
And Pixar.
At least Pixar is telling the same story over and over again with different characters. But what Disney's doing is just making live action remakes of all their classic animated stuff
that are weird,
that are soulless.
Do you remember when they did
empty.
the Lion King one, and it was like, I don't want to look at this.
It's the most soulless and empty movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Have you seen The Lady in Trampoline?
No.
No, and I will not pay for this. Like, I'm not going to spend money on a remake, especially if I liked the original movie. Like, absolutely not. Stop making it weirder and worse.
Watching the fall off the cliff in The Lion King 2019 is the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life, because it's just, there's no emotion on the faces of any of the animals. The large over the top eyes and exaggerated facial expressions of animated characters is what makes it believable, and which conveys emotion. And when there's none of that and what's supposed to be considered photorealistic, it's just soulless and empty, which is a fantastic.
Also, the animation of the Disney movies is part of the nostalgia and part of the charm of them. Like, then be like, okay, but you know what we should do? Make it weird and photorealistic. It's like, I think you miss what people like about this.
Yeah, I really like the story behind it. Like, they actually got lions into the studio and they were sketching them out while the lions were like walking around the art studio. So I thought that was really cool. As
the movie was awful.
I was gonna say, like, the one example of Disney doing this before the weird era is like 101 Dalmatians, and then they did do a live action remake
Jungle Book
of. And those ones are okay.
The Jungle Book one was okay.
But, like, it's when they're like, and let's add tech to it. Anyways, I'm cutting you off in this article.
Maleficent, or just turning Maleficent into its own project. Cruella.
But I kind of like it. Like, the Maleficent story, if you get rid of, like, Aurora, like, altogether, it's actually an interesting story.
I think that there is a place for, like, exploring other characters. Like, we talk about this with some of the comic book movies.
Yeah.
But just being like, okay, Ghostbusters, but make a female, like, that will flop. That is not good.
There have always been remakes, but increasingly there seems to be nothing else. Just this year we've had Cruella, He's All That. Who the hell wanted to make another version of She's All That? Nobody in the world
Why
ever.
do we need it though? Like, just leave it the way it is.
Guilty
because
and-
I want to be represented at Hannah Claire. Gosh.
The Many Saints of Newark, to name a few, and just like that, Dune, West Side Story, Home Alone, and Grease spin-off all the way. Meanwhile, TV has Gossip Girls, Will and Grace, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Oliver Twist, How I Met Your Mother, which is now How I Met Your Father, have all or are getting the remake treatment. I think it's cheaper than all that. I think it's just lack of interest in marketing new things. I think there's name recognition. Everything you heard there has a distinct title that will work well when advertising, that draws eyeballs to it.
And
faster.
I'm wondering, like, part of it, so like with How I Met Your Father, like, they're like, oh, let's see how closely it resembles the original show, which was extremely popular. They have to try and hook people who are interested in it because of its connection to the previous show, and then evolve enough into their own thing that they can maintain.
They said
interest.
it's not related, so
which I actually think is better. Like,
Then name it something different.
Yeah,
like words
but it's
matter.
so
I don't
dumb.
know. I could I go back and forth. I don't think I'm gonna watch How I Met Your Father, but like again, the concept of
See,
like
you wanted to say Mother because it's way better.
Disney in the remake model. Dumbo flopped.
Dumbo's a bad
flopped.
idea to remake.
Jungle Book, Dumbo.
Bad
See,
idea.
Mulan
I
was
like. No, I was
terrible.
fine with the Jungle Book one. Aladdin, Beauty
Look,
and the Beast.
They can have one or two remakes, but like stop. This is like all I have heard from Hollywood. We're remaking this thing. We're remaking this thing. We're remaking
It's
it.
the
but changing it slightly.
corporatization of all these companies, meaning that Disney owns so much now that it's baked into their business model to take advantage of all the IP that they're paying for, right? They buy Star Wars to make new movies, but they're not really new. They're just continuations of the same story in an expanded universe. I'll give that more leeway than just taking movies you've already made and then turning them into live action versions.
I don't know. It's just like I could take one or two from each category, something that's like a derivative, something that expands on another character, something that's a live action. One or two maybe, but this is just like every studio in Hollywood is producing as many as they possibly can.
I think that's
for no effect. And also like
it doesn't seem like they're succeeding, at least not in any success.
Their
any great way.
reasoning is they want to remake the classics so it falls along the lines of their kids of today. So they have their
the
classics.
thing
Except
about
for they
classics,
changed them. Mulan.
No, the thing
Mulan's
about
Mulan's so dumb.
the thing about classics is that they're classics. So
Yeah.
it's always going to be a remake of the actual classic, which was the older one.
Yeah.
I think if you want to introduce new things that will become classics, you have to create new content.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that this, I honestly
Same
feel
thing
like
happens in
people should
music.
feel insulted.
The same
They're
thing
like,
happens in music.
Well,
right?
like,
music, not about remakes, but in music, it's no longer about creating a fantastic album. It's about quantity, not
Yeah.
quality.
That's
Yeah.
true. Like, how do you feel about music sampling? Like
I
other
don't-
songs?
I don't care about. I mean, there's laws in place. Like what 70 has to be like 75% different. I don't know enough about it, but I know that every rap song I grew up loving sampled some Motown song from 20 years prior. So
Yeah.
I don't have any strong opinions.
I
on
think
that.
there's something to be said for being inspired by stories. Like we said, there
Yes.
are fairy tales that can be made into movies that are interesting, or movies that are inspired by classic tales set in
Stuff
different
in the
times.
public
Like,
domain.
There's tons of stuff that you could do. I'm not trying to be a stickler about it, but like this is lazy. That's what this is.
Yeah.
And I also think that there are tons of, indie movies, smaller movies that
Yep.
are interesting that if they wanted to cultivate, they could, but they're like, that seems like it might be work. So let's not do that.
Yeah.
And just try and spit out this already chewed gum.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, we're talking about the studio Sundance because they're the ones that produce your favorite show, Brett Reacher. They do have a lot of good like movies and TV shows on there, but like again, as you said, I feel like Hollywood doesn't want to invest into it because like they feel like it's a risk unless like there's a known name for it.
There's the quote right here. It says, they need to be sure they can secure a profit during turbulent economic times, so they're hedging their bets by banking on familiar stories and franchises. I think it really all does come down to that.
But think about when we all went into lockdown and Tiger King, Netflix documentary,
Yeah.
blew up because it was weird and different. Also, everyone was home. Like, it hit
Yes.
at perfectly the right moment. But, like, I've seen Tiger King all the way through, all the episodes, twice. I watched it with different people.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just because it was like, I can't even describe to you what's happening. It's so weird. And, like, I honestly, like, as a journalist, it's like someone found this weird niche issue and then explored what was going on there. I mean, these movies, like, if you have the budget to CGI 500,000 lions into the Lion King movie, like, why can't you spend a little bit more time in research and development, finding something that's just fresh.
I think that does fall into line of what you said earlier about there's so many handcuffs on artistic expression now that nobody wants to risk it.
It's kind of dumb.
But then how do we change things? And this article says it perfectly. It says Hollywood will stop making reboots when you stop paying for them. So when we stop,
I'm already not paying for them, though.
When we stop giving them our money, they will listen. So it says Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh yeah, they're doing they're doing a female Pirates. They're doing a Margot Robbie Pirates of the Caribbean. There is no Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp. I'm sorry.
Also, like, if you research what women's interaction with pirates was like you could come up with a whole new movie that, like, maybe Johnny Depp sails through the background until you have a connection to that universe they
He's
built.
canceled,
but
though.
They're so lazy. He's coming back. That
but I'm saying
ex-wife
this is an old article.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you were like, okay, women who were living in port cities where there were regularly pirates, like, you could make an actual movie that doesn't have to be like, okay, but what if we made this guy a female and tried to switch it? Like, it's just laziness.
Well, like yesterday, how Brett was talking about the Firefly series that's getting rebooted, but he was talking about the summary to Dane and I about the original series. I like that idea because, like, pirates back then didn't really treat women that well. It's the same thing like how the Mongolians with Genghis Khan, like, they pillage and basically destroyed villages. I'm not gonna say the other word because that's not YouTube safe, but
plunder.
They plundered them.
They pillage and plunder.
They plundered them. Basically, you can do, like, maybe a dark series about that. But Amazon Prime tried to do something similar to that, like, but it didn't work that well because it was kind of too weird and too dark. But I feel like they could do it if you get the right writers and, like, people have the creative juices again.
No, let's just pull things out of the trash and do it again.
The corporatization has homogenized entertainment in a way where, like you said, Tiger King is a 1 in a million find, but it's not the norm. It's
but there are millions of finds out there. It is unusual, but you could find other things. Like, it makes me crazy. Don't you think that it also detracts from the original versions of what other films? Yeah. That's how I feel about sequels too. Like, if a movie does well and then Disney is like, let's make 87 more of them, it's like, stop.
Different people are of different schools of thought on that. I actually think I take that on a case-by-case basis. Certain things, when they remake it or they add on to the story, it ruins the original for me, but not always.
There are some exceptions, I'll grant you that, but the majority of the time, a sequel does not add to it in any way.
That's true.
It says, this article is from 2019. It says, just this year, Toy Story 4, Men in Black International, and a live-action remake of The Lion King were amongst the top of the box office. Charlie's Angels will join the long list of remakes in November. Just so you guys, just a heads up, that movie flopped fantastically.
They were the Toy Story ones I was open to because there's, like, a level of like they kind of stuck to a lot of things that did well and expanded on their universe.
Fuller House did well on Netflix. But I'm saying, there's I'm talking about their arguments for this year. It did well, whether people want to admit it or not.
I'm not saying ban all reboots. I'm just saying stop using them as the cornerstone of your operation.
They really are the cornerstone.
Well, I feel like you can do it like how the Toy Story one, like, you can do a retelling just a different way. So, like, the newest one, is it Toy Story 4 where they go to the carnival?
But that's not a retelling then. That's like an expansion.
That's an expansion. It's a story.
Yeah, but then, like, a retelling, like, fucking Fuller House. That one was so terrible. It was, like, about female empowerment, and then, like, they got the kid actors to say the same thing, and it got me very annoyed. I was so annoyed by it. And then the Lion King one, did they get rid of the uncomfortable naughty scene?
In which one? In the Lion King?
Yeah,
I don't remember. I only
because they were talking about it because, like,
yes, I believe so.
Because, like, you know how The Lion Sleeps Tonight, that song.
Well, they also got rid of all the original voice actors and hired Hollywood celebrities,
which is dumb.
I just, like, I honestly don't have a lot more to say on this topic. It's just that, like, I am so tired of reboots. I'm so tired of hearing about them. I never go see them. And I feel like it's on consumers to say no, not only by not paying to watch them, but like do a little bit more research, find smaller production companies that are really channeling a lot of creativity and new thought into what they're creating.
Go see A24 films.
This is not it. You deserve better.
I remember yesterday I told Hannah Claire about the new trailer for Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, the movie, but it's making fun of the video game community, especially like like the video games where they have like these realistic human characters, but it looks like they're not looking at you. They made a joke about that in the trailer, and then basically the plot line is that Chip is still stuck in the old days, so he's still 2D, and then Dale, he got CGI surgery to be more modern.
Does he regret it? Does he want to go back?
No, he doesn't regret it.
Did he do it and then realize that his identity is more complicated than just the way he looks, and that he is
I don't know. Maybe you should ask the creators, but then they're looking for, is it Gidget? Gidget is the female mouse. I don't remember her name, but they said she went missing, and I like what Black Nerd Comedy said, Andre Meadows. He said maybe they're going to do a story about a real life cult that exists in Russia where it's just about that mouse. Maybe because that one, I feel like you can reboot it, but like tell a whole different story.
They're not going to talk about a cult in Russia because that's risk the dollar, like the bottom line.
Yep. Yeah, but I feel like they're telling
it's like asking them
story.
To bring up China. It's never going to happen.
No,
never going to happen.
Like, well, no, I do know Miracle.
Well, like
no.
I can tell you with 110% certainty they're not going to.
I love your young Gen Z optimism, but no.
Come on, but this one is like no. Hear me out about the Chip and Dale movie.
No, I'm done here.
The point of this is just that there is no creativity left. And then the other examples here, Men in Black International. Oh my gosh, imagine a movie with Will Smith.
I thought they were international originally.
But I'm just saying, like, imagine whoever comes up with the idea and they're like, but we're not going to have Will Smith. Sorry, it's going to fail. Lone Ranger remake. Who the hell approved that one? Even in 2013, that was a horrible idea. Also, like, The Mummy?
No, I would be interested in seeing...
With no Brendan Fraser.
I would be interested in seeing more, like, Lone Ranger. Like, Western stuff is kind of interesting. But, like, I don't think the Lone Ranger is going to survive in today's culture.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even in 2013...
I'm not going to want to watch it, and it will be bad.
Even in 2013, I'm surprised that movie got made.
Yeah. Well, if you want, like, Western movies, like Jordan Peele's movie Nope, it like talks about like...
No, I don't watch things by Jordan Peele. I mean, I would, I guess, but I suspect probably not. Yeah. Do you guys want to see that new movie Rust, I heard? Oh, just kidding.
We'll go see Rust.
Are we?
That's the type of movie that's gonna have a documentary made about the making of the movie.
I thought they were making it. Like Hulu got on it.
Hulu is like already filming, but it doesn't have the rights to it or something.
Well, Hulu's great at capitalizing on tragedy. That's their niche. They're like Astroworld. We love it. Who did Tinder Swindler? I don't know if that
Netflix. But they're also they did the Firefest one too.
Yes, they did the Fire. They did the
Britney Spears documentary.
Yeah,
I am not a huge fan about Netflix all the time, but like I do feel like when I got Netflix way back in the day, what I loved about it was watching weird small documentaries. Like there's about Jesus Camp, and there was a cool one called First Position about like young ballerinas who like what that world is like. I've watched tons of documentaries on Netflix. That was like why I was interested in Netflix originally. And they're just continuing to hone their craft in a more flashy way with more money, and I respect that.
What is going on, everybody? It is episode 58 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is here with my co-host.